Turkey says it will seek to develop closer defence ties with Russia while calling on Moscow to carry out joint operations against the Islamic State group in Syria. This despite the fact that the two countries are both supporting opposing sides in the conflict. Joining me now from Charleston in the States is Michael Smith, a terrorism analyst. Michael, since both countries, as I just said, are on opposing sides in the Syrian war, how would joint operations against the Islamic State group actually work?
That remains to be seen. If anything, I would interpret this as a play on the Erdogan government's part, a play to try to bid for more support from the United States and from Europe. It's putting us in an awkward situation as far as the NATO alliance goes with these overtures to Vladimir Putin's government. He is certainly by no means a paragon of virtue, as we all know in the West, and that Erdogan would be reaching out to him and suggesting that they have these common interests in Turkey's neighborhood that they could perhaps come together and address more effectively than working with NATO to address those issues is rather remarkable. I don't think it's something that officials in Washington were surprised by. And I also think that, right now NATO needs to start looking at the Erdogan government and ask, is this somebody who shares the values of the other member states of NATO? There are plenty of indicators that Erdogan is hoping to achieve some form of dictatorship over the long term. And it may be that this is an indicator that Erdogan views somebody like Vladimir Putin as a more stable, durable partner over the long term than governments within NATO who would really oppose that type of evolution of regime, if you will, inside of Turkey.
So where does this leave NATO? Because, as you say, this tilt by Ankara towards Moscow must be making the NATO members rather uncomfortable.
I'm not sure that uncomfortable is the word again. I think that our intelligence services in the West within NATO are aware of Erdogan's aspirations to further consolidate power. And with that, as he moves in that direction, naturally he'll be drifting away from NATO. There is the issue of Incirlik Air Base. Certainly in years past, especially during the Cold War, that installation was vital in terms of U.S. and Western influence capacity in the Middle East and elsewhere in that larger neighborhood. I'm not sure, despite the fact that plenty of officials in the United States would disagree vehemently, very adamantly with this, I'm not sure that that is the case anymore. I mean, we've developed new capabilities, new technologies, and really the dynamics of international relations have changed so dramatically that it leaves open the question of to what extent do we really rely on Turkey to continue to maintain our influence there? I think it would be quite the wake-up call for Erdogan if we were to suggest that perhaps we would be removing ourselves from Incirlik. I think it would be quite the wake-up call to Erdogan if he were to realize that perhaps NATO won't back him. When you have a radical Shia regime in Tehran that does want to achieve real hegemony within Turkey's neighborhood. What does that mean for Turkey when it no longer has the relationships that it has relied on to buffet its interests against the interests of the regime in Tehran, and especially with its proxy right next door in Syria?
Michael Smith, I'm terribly sorry we've run out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In other news, in the south of